Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. You are listening to a Face Project podcast, stories told by people from around the world that help to broaden our understanding of the human experience. My name is Natalie Jennings, I'm your host, and this is episode number 25. But before we jump into anything else, I have to give an explicit warning to this episode. There is a lot of adult content. This episode is not suitable for children in any way, shape, or form. And if you need to put in some earbuds or turn off the radio and revisit this, now would be a good time to do that.
For me, escorting is connection. I am meeting with another human being for a certain amount of time, whether it's an hour or 2 hours, and I am experiencing one of the deepest connections that I can experience with a human being. You know, we're naked, we are, in essence, we're falling in love with each other for that predetermined amount of time, and that is such a beautiful thing to me. It's so nurturing, it's so healing, and it's so caring and loving that I just can't stand to be without it. That's why, I don't need to see a client every day, but I want to see a client every day because I want that connection. I want that intimacy.
Welcome to a Face Project podcast. Face Project podcast.
It's just pure life. It's pure innocence.
Mom
it's
is
pure
brighter.
gratitude.
So I ended up in America.
I am an adopted Korean and have been all my life.
It's a perfect blend of science and creativity.
I was screaming, I will live over here till I die.
Are you moved and inspired by connecting with others in a physically intimate way? Do you love what you do for work? Is your true love out there waiting to be found? Then you are Sarah. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. If you missed the very, very first intro clip of this episode is explicit. There's a lot of adult content flying around, so put in some earbuds or tune in a little bit later if you've got kiddos around. Thanks for joining in. I am still in Hawaii. I have been spending the last few months here to get out of Minnesota winter and record some stories, visit some friends. For those of you, I don't know if I mentioned it, but I went to college at the University of Hawaii at Manoa, and I haven't been back in a very long time. So it's been incredibly healing and fun and adventurous and all around great to be back. I am here for a couple more weeks, but the reason that I bring that up is because like the last few episodes I've published out here, I don't have my usual mic setup, so I'd like to apologize ahead of time for any kind of finicky, weird, sketchy audio that you might be hearing because I don't have my pop shield and I don't have a very quiet space to work from. So there's often a lot of birds tweeting in the background, the occasional tourist helicopter, and I've just accepted that I won't get any of these podcasts edited if I don't just dive in and record them. So that's my little caveat to the audio. I hope that it sounds all right on your end. This episode is told by Sarah. Sarah works as a full-time escort, and we connected a while back, and I asked her if she would be willing to share her story, and she very graciously did. My aim with this podcast and magazine is to publish stories, to give people a platform to tell their stories in hopes that whoever's listening hears something that they can take away from it and better understand the people that we share our space with. That being said, I have wrestled with how I wanted to present this story because of its explicit nature and because I am sensitive to the fact that despite the fact that Sarah has a very positive, level-headed view of her work, I recognize that there are a lot of negative aspects to this industry, and she acknowledges that as well. But I am hoping that message is understood as you listen to this. That being said, I am really excited to share this story because, as you know, I think it's, and I mention this all the time, I just think now is the time more than ever that we need to take some time to learn about each other. And if we can't be understanding of all of the different types of people and outlooks that surround us, I don't think we're going to move forward as I know humans are capable of doing in a positive direction. So enough about that. I just want to mention also that if you are new to the podcast and you didn't know that we also have a magazine, you can see photographs of all of our storytellers, including Sarah, on the website. Head on over to afaceproject.com, look under the stories menu, click on podcasts, and you'll be able to see all of the thumbnails there. So afaceproject.com, stories menu, podcasts. Additionally, we are running a free magazine special right now to celebrate our 1-year anniversary as a podcast. So if you head to that same website, afaceproject.com, there's a big green bar at the top that you can click on that says get a free issue of the magazine. Our magazine is published quarterly. It's print and web. This is going to be a digital copy of the magazine. So you just throw in your email, click a button, and you'll get one of our back issues of the magazine. That being said, our issues are designed to be timeless, so we try to refrain from dating them and putting ads in them, and we hope that when these are picked up years down the road, that the stories are still compelling and interesting and informative and edifying, and all of the things we want it to be. So if you are interested in checking out a free copy of our magazine, head on over to afaceproject.com, click the green bar at the top, put in your details, and we'll send an issue over. And we hope you enjoy it. One more time, in case you just sped through the intro and ignored all of my intro stuff, this is a very explicit episode, not appropriate for kids. So throw in some earbuds or change the station until you get some time later on if you have kiddos around. So thank you for your support, for listening, for tuning in, and here is episode number 25, Sarah.
I started in college. I was kind of a late bloomer. I didn't have sex until I was like 22, maybe. Ever since I, kind of entered into my sexuality and started having sex, I always wanted to have sex. And I would run into this problem where I would go on dates with people and I would have sex on the first date, which for me was fine. I didn't see a problem with it, but I would never get calls back. And it got to the point where it was kind of frustrating, and it was like, well, if I'm going to be doing this, I might as well make some money doing it. I might as well get something out of this if I'm going to keep sleeping with people and not getting, a call back or anything. When I started doing the sugar daddy websites, I still had a notion that I was going to find a man who was rich and who could take care of me and that we were going to fall in love. It's like a shortcut to, climbing the social ladder. The first time I met with somebody, I was, I think 23 or 22. I would say he was maybe 35. He was handsome. He wasn't the biggest social butterfly. He was more reserved, kind of business-like. So he picks me up, we go out to dinner, and the first indication I got that something was going wrong was that he he claimed that he worked in the government in intelligence. And that was a field that I was interested in going into. And that's kind of what I was studying for. And he kind of dismissed what I had to say and wasn't really willing to talk about it, and just kind of, he was just kind of dismissive, and which I thought was a little rude, but I wasn't about to turn down whatever money I was about to get. So we went back to his place, and I think he wanted me to dress up in a maid's outfit, which I had never done and I thought was silly, but I was like, whatever, man, like, you do you. So we started to have sex, and he started saying things that kind of freaked me out. He was saying, how are you doing in school? And I said I was doing well. And he said, so if you don't go back, no one's going to really notice, or no one's going to miss you. And I was like, I don't know about that. And he was like, well, what if I just kept you here? And I was like, I don't know, maybe. It kind of escalated to the point where he was like, well, if I'm going to keep you here, I have to make sure you're not going to leave, so I'm going to have to tie you to something. No. It got to a point where I told him, like, dude, if you don't get off of me right now, like, I'm going to call the cops. Like, I am going to call the cops on you. Like, I don't give a shit. I know what I'm doing. I know if the law is on my side or not. Like, I don't care. I am not afraid to call the cops. And he kind of got off and was like, oh, I was just role playing. I was just kidding around. And I started crying, and he actually kind of enjoyed the fact that I was crying. He started smiling and was like, wow, I've never made a girl cry in bed before. And which I thought he was just a jackass. And so he drove me back to the airport and gave me like $250 or something ridiculous. Which now is you can hire an escort for $250, but you're not getting a great one. I've always thought it was interesting that I could have that kind of almost traumatic experience, but still have like the willingness to go through and like meet other people, and that actually turned out to be my first experience doing this. Was one of the worst, but I just kind of kept pushing through because it was exciting. It's exciting to meet people who it's every connection is a possible love connection, maybe. And if it's not, I still get money, so everything's okay. There are clients I see who I may enjoy, but that I don't necessarily want as repeat clients all the time. Like they're either a lot of work, or they are into things that I'm just not into sexually, or we don't have similar sexual energy, but there are some clients who the sex is amazing, and those are the clients that I want to see me. We may, in our time together, we may fall in love, we may be best friends, we may have the best time together, and there are clients who I genuinely, like, if there was a word between like and love, then that would be the word. So I see 1 or 2 clients a day. I would say 70 to 80% of my clients are married, if not more. When we talk about value systems, when I talk about values and morals, I of course have my own values and morals. However, having sexual relationships with men who are married really doesn't rub me the wrong way. I'm not having emotional affairs with them, I don't feel like, and I don't even know if I would have a problem with that. I really don't feel anything about having sex with married men. I feel like this is a way for them to kind of purge themselves of that pent up sexual energy and then go home and treat their wife nicely. You know, it just doesn't bother me, I guess. You know, one of my longtime clients, he has talked to me before about his marriage and how he, with his wife, you know, they just had a couple of babies, and he was telling me how he feels like with his wife, like she's his partner. She is his teammate. She is his partner in crime, like all these things, and he just doesn't, the sexuality is kind of missing from the relationship, and it's not through the fault of either one of them. It's just that he sees her as more of a partner and less of a sex object. Whereas when people are coming to me, they're looking for a woman who's oozing sensuality and sexuality and wants to, you know, have sex and do all these things. And being somebody who has sex as often as I have sex with as many people as I have sex with, appearance really loses all meaning. I don't really care if you are short or tall or fat or skinny or classically beautiful or not classically beautiful. The only tactile kind of thing that matters to me is smell. I can tell right away if somebody didn't shower before they see me, and that grosses me out. But most people do, thank God. I have met people who I have been super attracted to when they walk in the door, to the point where it makes me like nervous. Like I feel like I'm on a first date and I feel really awkward and like, why did you call me? And there have been people who I saw and I wasn't necessarily attracted to them right away. But then when we started getting down to business and the clothes started coming off, like are just the way they kiss me or the way that they're pacing in terms of, you know, foreplay and things like that. Like there are some clients out there who are just amazing. One thing that differentiates me from a lot of escorts I know is that I probably orgasm about half of the time, whereas with other escorts I know it's almost zero. Like 0%, like never. Most of the people I see choose to visit me during the day. Usually they're at work, they come from work, take, you know, an hour or two off from their job, and they come to my apartment, and then when we're done, they go back to work. So I get people who come in suits, I get people who come in, you know, kind of dressy clothes, and not everybody. Some people, you know, show up in jeans or whatever. And the average age, I would say, is about 40. Yeah, because I've seen people as young as 23, which was weird. I've seen a client as old as 85. While those two ages really aren't my preferences, the average age is about 40 or 45. And that, you know, I've always kind of had a thing for older men. My first boyfriend when I was 22 was 37. So I love it. I love getting men in their 40s or early 50s. I think that's the sweet spot. I decorate my apartment not for myself. Like the items that are in my apartment that I use for this, which is not where I live, by the way. The items in my apartment, they're not for me. They don't serve me. I don't decorate my place so that it's visually enjoyable to me. Like I decorate my place so that it looks like it's my own world that they're walking into when they come into the apartment. It's like taking a vacation. You know, I have seashells, and I have mirrors everywhere, and I have flowers and that kind of thing, and just things that are visually appealing, so that when somebody walks in, they do feel like they're exiting their life and they're coming into mine. So that's all part of it, you know, it's the seduction before, it's the sex, it is the cuddling afterwards, the talking afterwards. I had one client who, once we had sex, he and I talked about our favorite books for probably about half an hour. And every book that I loved, he knew. And he gave me some suggestions for books that I would like, some authors. Oh, well, the book that changed my life was The Stranger by Camus. And it's funny because when I read literary criticism of it, it's like, or critiques of it, it's like, sometimes when I read them, I'm like, did I misread that book? Like, did I get the wrong message out of that? But what I learned from The Stranger is that you can be in the worst situation. You can be like hopeless, and you can have, you know, you can be like on death row, and you can get to a point mentally where nothing matters. And it's not, it sounds depressing, but it's not. Like, to be able to let go and to be able to just understand that things are going to happen and you can't do anything about it. And to just let go of attachment is really important to me, because it means that no matter what situation I'm in, no matter how much pain I'm in, no matter how scared I am, whatever, like, I can detach and I can not have to dwell and live in that pain. My favorite appointments are the people who we can start off slow, we can build up, we have sex, it's amazing. And I have some really good sex with clients. And then afterwards I have my head on their chest and we talk and we cuddle and we kiss and we spend time together. And I'm not like a washcloth, like I'm not, a rag. Like I'm a human being, and I want to spend overnights with people who understand that and who just genuinely want to cuddle with me and sleep with me in their arms. And I think that based on the way that I write my ads and that the copy that I have on my website, I think people do understand that I have a brain. I don't think that it's 100% of the time appreciated, but about half of the time I'd say people really do enjoy hearing what I have to say. I don't do sexual things that I don't enjoy because that's not why I'm there. I'm not there to be a doll. I offer more than that, and I think that's why, I'm not like an ex model. I'm not, the skinniest or the prettiest of all the women in the world. But that's why I can command a higher rate, and the rate that I do ask for, and that's why I get business on it, is because I'm not just a stand-in vagina. I am a human being who wants to have sex with a client, who wants to make out with them, and who wants them to like pin them up against the wall or, do that kind of thing. And that really shows through. So for me to do things I don't want to do sexually, that I'm just not into sexually, or that don't turn me on sexually, that kind of goes against my whole vibe of being into it. And any client who would push for those kind of things is not really the client I want to see, because I have very few boundaries in terms of what I will and won't do. I mean, I don't have unprotected sex, I don't have anal sex. I mean, those are pretty much the two things. I absolutely think that the fact that I enjoy having sex and that I enjoy exploring somebody's body, and I just love touching and kissing and tasting and feeling and all these things, that absolutely affects people's experience with me, I do think that they can tell. That's where my regulars come in. That's where they know that I enjoy myself. They know that I am having real orgasms, that I am just fully enjoying their company. And I think that's where I'm retaining a lot of the clients that I want to retain, because the kind of client that is turned on by me being turned on, that's the kind of client I want. I had a client recently who he had never seen an escort before, and he seemed nice and everything, but about midway through, he kept asking if we could have unprotected sex, and I swear he must have asked me about 10 times while having sex if he could take the condom off. And it finally got to the point where, not to get too graphic, but, he kind of stood up, took the condom off, so I started giving him oral sex, and then he climbs kind of on top of me, and I'm not really scared of him. He doesn't give me that kind of vibe, but I immediately lock my legs to show him I don't know what you think you're doing, but to essentially give him the clue that no, we're not doing this. And then he asked me again if we could have sex like that, and I literally had to be dude, we are done. Our time is up. He immediately apologized, immediately was no, I'll put a condom on. But again, with me, it's if I'm not into it, I'm not doing it. And I told him, I don't want to have sex anymore. You asked me 10 times if we could take the condom off. And I said no, very clearly, every single time. I'm not into it. Have a good day. Don't worry about it. Just be respectful of boundaries next time. I always have safe sex, so I use condoms with partners, and there's some things that you learn that kind of go along with that. For example, I make sure to always have lube on hand, because if I'm having sex and someone's wearing a condom and there's not enough lubrication, that makes the condom break a lot easier. So I learned that to always make sure that is taken care of and that there's lubrication and all of that. Because that is the last thing I want for myself and for the client, to worry about what's going to happen now that the condom broke. If someone wants to see me and they don't want to use a condom, I don't want to see them, because that means that they don't want to use a condom with anybody. And if they're willing to have sex with me, an escort, without a condom, who are they not willing to have sex with without a condom? The people I see, if I were to not use protection and if I were to have unsafe sex, I would lose probably 90% of my clients, and I would gain all the clients I don't want to have. It's a community, the escort world, with the people who see them and the escorts themselves. They are definitely a community, and it gets around who has sex unprotected and who doesn't. I go to the doctor once a week, and I get tested for all the things you can get in your throat. And I haven't contracted anything in my tenure as an escort, which I consider myself really fortunate for that. I remember I had a client recently who, he was great in bed. We had similar sexual energy. It was fantastic. I loved it, loved the sex. And I mentioned something to him afterwards. I was like, that was awesome. And his comment was something like, oh, I'm sure it was. And it kind of made me sad, because I genuinely had an amazing time, but because of this notion of this preconceived idea of what I do, the fact that he would think that I was just trying to flatter him. That's not what I do. I don't fake orgasms. I tell people I don't have orgasms during sex. I've never in my life had one. From oral sex, yes, but not from just regular intercourse. and because I don't fake it. It's too much energy. It's not what I'm about. I'm not interested. So when I get a sense that a client has a hang up about the kind of relationship we're in, or that they feel embarrassed or ashamed about what they're doing, that doesn't make me feel good in turn. And it's a shame, for that client who I had such good energy with, that he didn't believe me when I said I had a great time. I was talking with a woman recently who I was asking some questions about how to do my accounting with my money and things, and she made a comment to use my mind and not my body, and I thought that was a really interesting statement to make. I thought that was coming from a good place, but it was kind of perpetuating this idea that using your body and having pleasures of the flesh is that's something that is looked down upon. And I feel like, especially with women, being able to be sexual and being able to be openly sexual is not only something that's looked down upon, but that it's a dangerous thing. Rape is something that happens, and it happens in my industry. And this idea that, that while I have no qualms about calling the police if something like that were to happen, I'm sure that many women would, because of the situation they were in and not wanting to feel judged. But I just think it's a shame that my openness with my sexuality and my comfort with it and my wanting to express it with many people is something that is looked down upon by the majority of society. I'm the kind of person that I enjoy having sex every day, and I enjoy having sex with different people, because when I'm having sex with different people, every time it's different and it's new and it's exciting. And it's something that I believe that men have had the privilege of doing for so long. This idea of going out to a bar and hooking up with a stranger, or picking up some lady at the library, or that kind of thing. And yet when we talk about women having sex with different people, it's a completely different story. My experience as an escort and as somebody who has a lot of sex with different people is a turn off to men. They want somebody who it's their first time going wild or something like that. And that's really frustrating to me. It's really frustrating to me to have to tone down my sexuality when I'm talking with people, to have to hide the parts of me that I feel so strongly and that are so important to me. It's difficult to, in the average world, to have to either flat out lie about what I do and what I like to experience, and to have to defend it or to be rejected. It's not unheard of for an escort to have a partner. And so I'm not saying that it's not possible. It's just, it comes with a million times more barriers than a standard person walking down the street trying to get a date. I just wish there was a word other than escort or other than provider that people were familiar with, because the first thing people say to me if I'm seeing, a counselor, or if I'm talking to somebody and I let them know I'm an escort, the first thing that kind of comes out of their mouth is like, do you want to get out of it? Do you want to stop? Do you need help? And that is not the case at all in what I do. Escorting fulfills so many needs for me, and it makes me so happy, and it gives my life purpose, and it gives me the connection that I seek with people. And I get frustrated that when I tell somebody I'm an escort, I have to go into this long explanation of how much money I make, of the kind of clients I see, the fact that I don't see people at 2 a.m., the fact that I am not in seedy motels, that I actually have I have 2 apartments, one I live in, and then one I work out of that's a nice apartment in downtown Minneapolis. I hate having to prove myself that this is something that I enjoy. I wish there was a different term for it that kind of differentiates between the sad reality of survival sex and then my reality of being in essence, a businesswoman who is running my own business. Police really don't care what I'm doing with my time. I'm not hurting anybody. And they to a degree, they know that. I'm not trafficking anybody. I'm not selling drugs. I'm not doing any of that. And with getting references from people, I'm weeding out the people who would be more scary. To a degree, thank God for blacklisting websites. I've had somebody call me and talked with me on the phone for maybe 20 minutes. And then when we hung up, I ran his number through one of the databases, and he came up as a very scary person. If somebody doesn't give me references right away, if I don't have a lot of information to go off of, I will run their information through a blacklist website. There are a lot of different types of escorts. There are girls that are doing it for survival. There are girls that are doing it because they are addicted to drugs, which, I'm not naive. I know that happens. There are girls that do it because they have trauma. There are girls that do it because they love it. There are girls that are a combination of some or all of those things or whatever. And it's so hard. It's so hard to talk about what I do without having to go into a 10-minute explanation of why it's a good thing. Because I'm really open with my friends. All of my friends know what I do. My roommates know what I do. My family knows what I do. My aunt is just very insistent that I save my money. I think the main thing I would want to tell people would be that whether you want to call it prostitution or escorting or whoring or whatever anybody wants to call it, it's a big world. It's a very big world. There's, on one end of the spectrum, you have girls who went into it before they were 18, which is always considered trafficking and abuse. It's never considered something that they consensually started if they were under 18. And I think that is a horrific side of the business. And it's a side of the business that I'm not happy that I'm in the same category as. But on the other end of the spectrum, you have women and men who are just so excited to be there and love what they do and enjoy every aspect of the encounter. So what I would want to leave people with is, when someone sees something in the news about, a woman being arrested at a hotel or being arrested on the street or that kind of thing, that is an aspect of my business, of my world, but it's not the only part of it. There's a huge variety in what experiences can be. And they can be like that, but they can also be very loving, very fun, and very sensual.
This episode was recorded and produced by me. Web layout and design by Aaron Woods. Photography by Natalie Jennings. Music by Aura. And just a quick note, if you feel compelled to join the conversation about this or any of the other episodes that you have listened to, we have a Facebook community group. If you are feeling fired up about anything that you've just heard here or in any of the other episodes, we want to hear from you. And we want you to join our community, learn from each other, share, whatever. It's a very open space. It's in Facebook. a Face Project community. There are a few hundred folks joined up, engaging, and chatting away. So head on over to Facebook, a Face Project community. One final message. If you have been listening to this podcast for a while and would like to help contribute to the cause, we can't do this without you. We have over on our website a contribute page. You can become a sustaining member. So if you listen regularly, if you enjoy the content, and you feel like giving back to us so that we can keep producing this content, we are forever grateful to all of you who have already done so. And if you are interested in doing so, head on over to afaceproject.com, click on the contribute menu link at the top, and then all of the information is there. You can do like a one-time thing, you can do a sustaining thing, and there's dogs barking in the background, so that might be my cue to sign off. Thanks for putting up with the on-the-go audio. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting. Head on over to iTunes if you want to leave a review or a comment, and we hope to see you in the Facebook group. Until next time, aloha.